today, and I am Rachel Price's brother. The bulletin says I'm her older brother, and that's the truth. I suppose that was the most truthful word to put there. If they had said big brother, that'd be a lie. She got all the nice hype genes. But we thank you all for the prayers that you put up every day for my sister, as we do too, with what she's going through. And we thank you. My wife Penny's with me today. She went through basically a heart attack back in September, had triple bypass surgery. Then 2 of the bypasses failed. She had to go back in and have stents put in. She's doing well. We praise the Lord. And we thank you all. You ladies signed the card and sent to her back then. We appreciate that very much. We're here today to represent what I think is one of the most exciting ministries that the Lord has ever exposed me to. In our prayer time today, one of the blue cards was a request for hope. You know, hope is really what our message is all about. We live in a world that's extremely hopeless. We live in a world where there's all kinds of injustice and there's all kinds of hardship and there's all kinds of hurt and pain. You get to the point that you're scared to even hope because it's going to get ripped right out from under you again. But Peter tells the Christian community that you should be ready with an answer at all times when people ask you why you have what? Hope. Mountain Mission School is a ministry of hope to the people that is the most heartbreaking that don't have hope. To me, the most heartbreaking person to not have hope is a child. To start out so young in life and already be hopeless. Already hopeless. And that's what Mountain Mission School is all about. And it was born out of the burden of a man's heart named Sam Hurley back in 1921. He started Mountain Mission School, and since then, more than 20,000 kids from over 60 different countries have been raised on that campus. They've gotten their schooling. Their education is phenomenal there. They don't take any money from the government. And the government doesn't turn their schooling into some of the social engineering that we see happening so often in our schools. They learn the Bible, and they learn biology and math and all the sciences. And in fact, they are sharp as tacks. They have a rate of 95% going on to college. Amen. It's worthy of support. And I'm here to ask for your support. Karen's already said and talked to a few of you that you plan as a congregation to take them on for regular monthly support, and I applaud you for that. I want you to keep us in your prayers, though. Penny and I are kind of doing this job of going around and sharing the message. Please stop at the supply or the table out there with the supplies that tell about the school. There's also opportunity, if not even just as a church, if you want to individually support, you can sponsor a child. It's $30 a month. And there's an opportunity to have if you want to. And I thank you for allowing me to be here today. And let us all be ready at all times to give an answer for the reason we have one. Amen. For the close of the message this morning. Haven't you ever noticed, if you study God's Word, one of the amazing things is sometimes you'll be reading something that you've read 100 times, you've heard 100 times, and something will leap from the page brand new to you. When Rachel and I were in school, I hope I keep this thing on. When Rachel and I were in school, there was a lady that was considered to be a real expert in the brotherhood on children's education. Her name was Joni Grimm. And she came to Johnson Bible College when Rachel and I were there and was talking about some of the funny things, some of the serious things that had happened in her interaction with children. And she told them how one day she was telling them the story that we're going to look at here in just a minute. You've heard it 100 times, but I'm hoping something new will jump out. She was telling them the story, and when she got done, she asked them, now kids, who was it that got really upset when the prodigal son came home? And one little boy raised his hand. He knew the answer. She called on him. He said, it was the fatted calf. And I'll bet you the fatted calf was upset. You know, I never noticed it before, but do you know when you read that parable, 3 times it talks about, we'll kill the fatted calf, we'll kill the fatted calf, we're killing the fatted calf. Something jumped off the pages of that story to that little boy that I hadn't noticed. You sure did. I'd like to look at this time-honored story. And I want you to turn to the text. I'm not going to read the whole story because I'm convinced most of you know it well, but I want you to have it in front of you because we're going to be looking at specific parts of that message. But before we do, would you have a prayer with me? Lord, you speak so vividly through your word, so much so that it's new. If we will open our hearts, it's new every single time we read it. Even if the content is not new, the message is new. The stirring is new. The conviction is new. If we will but allow your Spirit to work. We ask that happen today as we look at the story of the prodigal son. In Jesus' name. Well, you know the story. So let me just go ahead and start talking about the characters in the story. And the first one is the one that we do usually seem to forget about, the older brother. Now, if you've read this story's setup, you go to the beginning of Luke 15, there was an intended reason why Jesus had an older brother in the story. It's because of the Pharisees and the scribes, the religious people who thought they were really better than everybody else, and he had no business hanging around with sinners the way he did. And it was because of that attitude that he told this story. So in a way, the older brother is who this story is about in a very important way. It was intended that we have the part about the older brother in here. And what was it about this older brother that was so bad? I like to think of it as a term that I use all the time. He was a scorekeeper. He was a scorekeeper. If you look in verse 29 in the story that Jesus told, the older brother is all upset. And what he's saying is what you've heard your kids say 1,000,000 times. That's not fair. Do you ever get sick of hearing that from your kids? That's not fair. Well, how many times does the Lord hear that from our hearts? And it comes from too much keeping score. It's a common tendency among all of us. I have to confess that if I don't watch out, it'll happen to me. And I'll bet it'll happen to you. You know when it happens to me sometimes? I have to remember this very message. I'm standing in the grocery store line, and the sign clearly says 15 items or less. And somebody's in front of you that's got at least 40. And they're also writing a check for it. And it says cash only. And you're standing there being all frustrated. That's what keeping score does. It has you looking around, weighing what everybody else is doing, and deciding it's not fair. They should have paid attention. Look what you're doing to me. You're making me late. You're taking my time. I'll guarantee that the next time you feel yourself getting frustrated, the next time you find yourself feeling like it's just not fair, ask yourself, am I keeping score? Because the bottom line, every time you keep score, is going to be agitation, frustration, disappointment, anger. That's what keeping score does. If we spend our lives looking around and comparing and thinking about us compared to others, we're going to be in trouble. The next time you think life is being unjust to you, and Edgar mentioned it earlier in the service, I dare you to stand at the foot of the cross and look up and feel sorry for yourself. Amen. And be angered at the injustices of life. In fact, one of the beautiful things that the gospel rids us of, if we will let it, is keeping score. Because it makes you miserable. And that's exactly what was happening with this older brother. What about the other son, the prodigal son? I want to point out, first of all, you notice that he is a son. This is not a story about an outsider. In a way, okay, this story applies to anybody that needs to come home to God, okay? But its most direct application is to those of us who are in the household of the Father and sometimes choose to go off into a far country. This is a son, not an outsider. And yet, even though he was a son, look at the ways that he broke his father's heart. First of all, he was clearly not interested at all in his father's business. He was interested in having a good time. He was interested in indulging himself. He had no interest in that farm that the older brother said he worked at so hard. The prodigal son was interested in getting out of there as quick as he possibly could, to have a wild time. And it didn't bother him at all what that was conveying to his father. It didn't even seem to register with him. I wonder if sometimes we, sons and daughters, can certainly give our Heavenly Father the impression that we're not as interested as we should be in His farm, in His work, in His kingdom. I can tell you one thing that is humbling me right now. Penny and I just started this work with Mountain Mission School. I feel so humbled because the folks that raise these kids have dedicated their whole lives. We have friends there that are celebrating their 50th year that they have lived on that campus, lived in the dorms with the kids, taught them, fed them, counseled them through all of their problems and their heartaches and the injustices and the things in life that have made them so angry. And I feel unworthy even to be a partner in that business because they have certainly shown an unbelievable interest in the work of the kingdom. I hope we don't disappoint our Father like this boy did. He obviously didn't care too much about the family business. Also, he broke his father's heart because he wasted what his father had given him. His father gave him his inheritance, and he went off, the text says, and wasted it in riotous living. What has God given you and me that we waste? Money, time, health, opportunity. Remember, this is a son. This is somebody in the household. We need to dedicate ourselves more to not being wasteful with those things that our Heavenly Father has given us. And then, this one really stuck out at me when it came home to me. The way that he broke his father's heart, perhaps the worst, was in a manner of speaking. When he came to his father and asked that he go ahead and get his inheritance now, isn't he really, in a manner of speaking, saying, let's go ahead and pretend you're dead? Can we go ahead and pretend you're dead? Can I cash in on being your son now? That had to hurt. I want my inheritance now. Let's pretend you're dead. Do we ever, as sons and daughters in the household, at least in the way we convey it to the world, come across as though our Father's dead? We forget about the empty tomb. We forget about the power that raised Him from the dead, that we can proclaim, and our lives could be a shining beacon of hope to others. How much it must hurt the Father when His children, for all intents and purposes, are saying, let's pretend you're dead. And look what happened to this boy. He had to have a 2x4 between the eyes to wake up, didn't he? He was so wrapped up in himself and his own pursuit. I love the way the text reads when Jesus says, when he came to his senses. verse 17. He'd been totally confused. He thought he was the smart one. He thought he had really cashed in. He had really done a great thing. Young man gets his inheritance now and has a good time and has all these friends until the money's gone. And he came to his senses, and where was he? He was in a pig pen, which was an extreme. I mean, you can't get any lower for a Jewish young man. He's slaughtering hogs. Talk about ceremonial uncleanness. He was living in it daily. And that 2 before between the eyes woke him up. And he said to himself, this is crazy. He finally got some sense. He said, my father's servants do better than this. I need to get back home if my father will have me. You know, we should ask ourselves sometimes, what is it going to require for us to come to our senses? If we are being like this prodigal son, what will it require? Do we really want to have to end up in the pig pen? Can't we wake up long before that and spare ourselves a lot of misery and a lot of heartache for our father and our family? When I was a student at Johnson, one of the things the preacher boys used to do was at breakfast, after they'd spent the whole weekend out in their various ministries where they went out to preach, we'd come back and share our experiences with each other. And sometimes they were very dramatic. One of the guys in our little breakfast group was talking about a man who for years had been rejecting the prodding of the Holy Spirit to give his life to Christ. And here was this preacher boy, after many preachers had been there over many years, visiting with that man, talking to him about his need for Christ. And the man came up, I'm sure, with what he thought was going to end the conversation. He said, do you know, I had a dream the other night that God was going to show me with a sign of fire when it was time for me to become a Christian. A week later, his garage burnt to the ground with his car inside. Still didn't become a Christian. What does it take? You remember when Jesus taught in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, that the rich man said, send somebody back from the dead. And the answer was, they have Moses and the prophets. In other words, they have the scriptures. But you know what? Even if we're going to be like that guy and say, okay, fine, send somebody back from the dead. Well, guess what? He did that too. When he raised his son from the dead. So we've got the older brother. We've got the prodigal son. And in a way, those two sons represent us. They represent natures and tendencies that we fight within our own selves. The hero of the story, and really the main character of this story, is the father. It's really kind of a shame that we call this the prodigal son. The story ought to be called the magnanimous father, not the prodigal son. And let me just say something as a side note here to those of you who are parents. The father in this story represents God. The perfect father. The perfect father. But guess what? He had two wayward children. He had a wild child, and he had a sullen, angry son. And yet he was the perfect father. I think sometimes parents beat up on themselves when they have prodigal sons or angry, sullen children. And it's true, don't get me wrong, we need to do everything we can to raise our children in the Lord. But it's not a magic formula. It's not flipping a light switch. Don't beat yourself up. If you're a parent who has prodigal children, you teach them. It's the Holy Spirit that works on them, and they respond. You do your job to plant the seed. Let the rest go. This was the perfect father, and yet he had wayward children. Okay, that was just a side note. What I wanted to point out mostly about the magnanimous father here was he was absolutely not a scorekeeper, even though he had every right. What would you have done if you had a son that treated you like the prodigal son? And took it wasn't his money, it was your money. It was your inheritance that you gave to him under circumstances in which he was basically saying, let's pretend you're dead. And then he comes home and expects you to take him in? If anybody had a right to keep score, it was his father. He had every right to be angry and mad and reject his son. In fact, one of the clues to how not a scorekeeper the magnanimous father was, is did you notice the way the story reads? Jesus is describing the prodigal son after he's come to his senses. He's on his way home, and he's literally rehearsing a speech. The way the text reads, he said, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to say to my father, Father, I've sinned against you and heaven, and I'm no longer worthy to be called one of your son. Could you make me one of your hired servants? Picture it. He's walking all the way home, rehearsing this speech, because he's nervous. He knows he has no right to show up there and ask for his father's grace. But he's desperate. And he's rehearsing his speech. I call it his groveling speech. Okay? But when you read the account, and the father sees him afar off and runs to meet his son, he starts the speech. Father, I've sinned against heaven and earth, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Boom, right there the father interrupts him. It's almost as if he doesn't care about the groveling. He doesn't care about being made better about how nasty his son was to him. He interrupts the groveling speech and says, get a robe, get a ring, my son is home. He is so excited. He doesn't even have to get the groveling speech. He doesn't need the score even done. The son is back. And that's all he cares about. And he also didn't keep score with the older brother. He went to the older brother who was pouting and having a fit. And he said to the older brother, son, everything I have is yours. Everything I have is yours. And he even tried to coax a little grace out of the older brother. And he said, look, your brother's come home. The older brother kept saying, your son this, your son that, your son this, your son that. But if you read the text, the father turns it around and says, your brother has come home. We had to kill the fat calf and make merry. You see, this story is about God's treatment of us. Sons, daughters, in the household. Which are we? Are we the older brother? Or the prodigal son? Or maybe a mixture of both? But the fact is, the magnanimous Father receives us. He receives us. He doesn't keep score. He wants restoration. This story is about God's treatment of us. One of my favorite stories, I grew up with a preacher daddy, and one of the stories I remember as a little boy hearing him tell him, I don't remember all the details, but it was a story about a revival preacher who had come to a church, who'd been preaching a revival, and right before his sermon he had some prayer time, and he really felt like the Lord was really going to do something great that night. He preached with all of his heart. And the only thing that happened was a little 8-year-old girl came up to give her heart to the Lord. And after the service, he was talking to her, and she said, you know, preacher, you were preaching that text, and you called my name. It was written right in the Bible. He said, I don't remember what verse you're talking about, honey, and I didn't even know your name before tonight. I don't know your name even now, honey. And she said, well, you read it. You read it right out. It was the text that we're looking at right now. And you kept saying, this man receiveth sinners and eateth with them. I'm Edith. And he started to correct her. You know, this is the King James Version, and you know, it's not really your name, it's E-A-T-E-N. And but he didn't, because all of a sudden the miracle God worked was in his heart. Because he realized she got it. She got the message. This man receives sinners, and Steve with him. And Edgar with him. And Bob with him. Karen with him. That is the message. And it's the message that brings hope. That's the ministry of Mountain Mission School. You know what, folks? That's every one of our missions. Is to bring hope. This man receives sinners. And that includes me. I'm going to sing a hymn of invitation. Softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling. And look what that verse says. It reminds me of the magnanimous Father in the prodigal son. See on the portals, he's waiting and watching. Watching for you, for me to come home. Come home. Maybe there's somebody here today, maybe not named Edith, but he receives you. If you come, as we stand and sing, if you need to make a decision with your Lord, would you come?
Softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling for you and for me. See on the portals, he's waiting and watching, watching for you and for me.
Why should we tarry when Jesus is pleading? Why should he be pleading in the first place? Has he not done enough? We're going to put the creator of the universe on his knees and beg us? But you know what? He's willing to do it. He's not as quirky. He's like the magnanimous Father who interrupted the groveling speech. He wants us that bad.
Father, you have touched each and every one here. Father, though we might not have come here, kneel. In our hearts, we're just praising you. That you would keep and touch each one of us individually. And Father, in such a way that we can't do anything but go out and share. Go out and love. Because you are a loving Father. Father, I thank you for Brother Steve. And I thank you for the ministry that he's doing. Father, empower him. Give him mercy. Give him, Father, protect him. Protect him and his family. Because he's doing the work. Father, we love you. And as the body of Christ, we all say, Amen. Amen.